these two cameras are very different propositions because this is a beast in itself. I can use an interchangeable lens, or I can choose to use a very compact, much lighter lens. And obviously, if I want to match the features on the DJI Pocket 3 with my mirrorless compact camera, I need to use a gimbal and then a wireless set of radio mics and a heavier duty tripod, because obviously this is a lot heavier than a Pocket 3. This will give me something that the DJI Pocket 3 can, and vice versa. Rather than asking yourself whether one is better than the other, what you should ask yourself is, which one is the best system for you based on what you do? And the biggest and most obvious difference between these two setups is the fact that with a compact mirrorless camera, you can change lenses. For instance, this is a 24-70, and obviously that's gonna give you a very different look than the standard 20mm on the Pocket 3. So for instance, I am filming right now at 35mm. And yes, you could zoom in and get a very different look that sort of mimics a 35 or a 40mm lens. But you are digitally zooming in and you do lose a little bit of quality, and then you need to go in post and possibly blur at the background so that it does look a little bit more realistic or natural. And you can clearly see the difference between this camera and the Pocket 3. This is now the look of an 85mm on a compact mirrorless camera, and as you can clearly see, there is a massive difference between this look and anything that the DJI Pocket 3 is ever gonna be able to give you. The Pocket 3 is never gonna be able to compete with a compact mirrorless camera when it comes down to the choice of lenses and what you can do in terms of storytelling with a different focal length. They both serve very different purposes for what I think are two very different users. Because let's say that you arrive to your fancy location and you want to film a little sequence of you maybe setting up your camera or whatever it is that you do. With a compact mirrorless camera, you are gonna have to just do static shots because that's all the camera can do. But with the DJI Pocket 3, you got movement because this camera has a tracking system, and then you can just do your setup, do your thing, and then come back, move around. And this is not something that a mirrorless camera can do unless you involve a gimbal, like an air tracking gimbal from Hohem. If this is the look and feel that you want everything to look like your mirrorless camera, well, there is no option. That's what you need to do. If you are someone new that is not familiar with the whole interchangeable lenses, or you want something that is quick and easy and very lightweight, the DJI Pocket 3 is perfect. I mean, you don't have to worry about lenses, you don't have to worry about exposure. You literally turn on the camera and off you go. And yes, you can put ND filters, but that's as much as you need to go. So there is a merit on this camera compared to a larger mirrorless camera. And this is what it's like to be vlogging with a compact mirrorless camera. And I am at the widest possible focal length that I have, and this lens has inbuilt stabilization, and the camera also has inbuilt stabilization. And yet you can still see some micro jitters in the background because this camera doesn't have a gimbal of any kind. Compare that to what the DJI Pocket 3 offers you in terms of stabilization for vlogging, and I think there is no comparison. This is infinitely better to look at. And no amount of stabilization in a mirrorless camera can compensate for those micro jitters and movement. With the Pocket 3, this is rock solid, as you can clearly see here. And let's not underestimate how important weight is for vlogging, because as you can clearly see, there is a big difference between this size and this size. You could literally be vlogging for 20 minutes with the Pocket 3 and you wouldn't feel it in your arm. You try and vlog with a mirrorless camera, however small the lens is, and you are gonna notice it. And if on top of that you add a gimbal, that's only gonna make matters worse. And yes, you're gonna get better stabilization, but your arm is gonna be hurting within 3-4 minutes. And the menu layouts on the DJI Pocket 3 are really easy to browse, and the screen right there in the middle makes it really easy to get to whatever it is that you wanna get. A mirrorless camera, on the other hand, you need to go onto the menu, sometimes into the sub-menus, flick and rotate the screen, and it's just not as ideal for vlogging as the DJI Pocket 3. As you can clearly see from my friend here, it's taking him a little bit of time to set up, and all I need to do is just flick my hand and that's it. I'm good to go. And this is one thing that makes this camera so special, because despite the shortcomings, this is very fast. And if you do any type of vlogging, I mean, I'm even making it easy. I mean, I'm not even asking him to do any wireless radio mic or any fancy long lenses. This is the basic setup that he's trying to set up here with a short lens and not even microphone, because if I was to turn on the wireless microphone that comes with the Pocket 3, which is this one, all I need to do is turn it on and I get instant audio. With this camera, I would have to set up a wireless radio mic, plug it to the camera, compensate for the counterweights, and that adds time. Whereas here, I can literally just flick the camera and start vlogging or filming. And this is something that you cannot underestimate. And hey, finally, when it comes to audio, things couldn't be more different, because the DJI Pocket 3 has a really nice wireless radio mic that you literally just turn on and it's good to go. You're getting good quality audio that is recorded both on the actual Pocket 3 and on the transmitter itself. A mirrorless camera will give you the ability to also attach a wireless radio mic set, and potentially you can have more inputs because you can afford to have maybe a bigger setup, but you can also use XLR microphones, and that's something that you could technically use with the DJI Pocket 3, but it's a bit of a pain and it requires a lot of cables and adapters. The DJI Pocket 3 is more of a vlogging setup for quick filming. The mirrorless camera is a more professional setup that might require a little bit more time, but gives you a lot more options. And another thing to take into consideration is all the things that you can do with the DJI Pocket 3 that you cannot really do with a mirrorless or DSLR camera, or at least not as easily. For instance, time lapses, and specifically moving time lapses, because this is something that you can easily do with a DJI Pocket 3, but with a mirrorless or a DSLR camera, it's just not going to happen, and then you need to add a gimbal, and the whole proposition becomes very heavy and cumbersome compared to what you get on the palm of your hand, literally. Another thing is all the different gimbal modes that you're gonna get on the DJI Pocket 3 that is gonna give you very different looks. Obviously, if you are part of a crew or if you're in a project that you want to keep the aesthetic and the look of your interchangeable lenses, you need to stick to a mirrorless camera, and that's gonna give you amazing footage that really and truly the DJI Pocket 3 is not gonna be able to match. But if you're a solo content creator or a vlogger, it's really difficult not to look at the DJI Pocket 3 and realize that it probably does everything that you need it to do. The Pocket 3 has a 1-inch sensor giving you 10-bit video, and that's something that some mirrorless cameras can do, but many others still in 2024 record on 8-bit. And that 1-inch sensor translates into very good low light capabilities. The only thing that you need to bear in mind is that it's fixed to a 20mm lens. So if you're looking for low light with a 50 or a 75 or 85 close-up lens, well, the Pocket 3 is not going to do it. So you need to work within the constraints of the camera. But in itself, the Pocket 3 will give you really nice low light. Now, one thing to bear in mind is costs, because a mirrorless camera is going to set you back several $1,000s, because you buy the body, but the body in itself is not going to get you anywhere. You need to have lenses, possibly ND filters, a microphone, and the list goes on. A Pocket 3, you buy it, maybe invest on the Creatives combo, and that's it. That's all you need. Maybe some ND filters, but you could literally be up and running in no time. A mirrorless camera, you could literally blow $3,000, $4,000, $5,000, and you still have to buy more accessories. A decent tripod that can handle the weight, depending on the lenses that you buy. There are a lot of considerations that go into the accessories of a mirrorless camera that you don't have to think about when you buy a DJI Pocket 3. With a mirrorless camera, you have no problem using wireless microphones, external monitors, anything and everything that you could possibly think of, you can use it with a mirrorless camera. With a DJI Pocket 3, you can use, for instance, ND filters, and that's the same with a mirrorless camera. And as an external monitor, you can use the Mimo app paired to a smartphone, and that's just basically it. This all comes down to the type of person that is going to be using either camera. If you rock up on location with a camera crew with a DJI Pocket 3, well, people are going to be looking at you and they're going to laugh at you. If you rock up with a fully loaded mirrorless camera with interchangeable lenses and your mat box and external monitors and handle and the whole shebang, well, you look a lot more professional. So the question to ask really is, which one is the better setup? And that's an impossible question to answer because these two setups offer something that is very different. A DSLR or mirrorless camera is always going to be a much more professional looking setup than a DJI Pocket 3. If you are someone starting out, I would say the DJI Pocket 3 is probably everything that you need and more because it's so easy and convenient. The menu layouts are very easy to follow, the settings are very easy to do, whereas a mirrorless or compact DSLR camera, well, this is a whole different proposition, and for some people it might be too much, or it's too slow, it's too heavy. Now, obviously, there are certain advantages of using a mirrorless camera over a DJI Pocket 3, and that goes in terms of aesthetics and looks, and the color science of these cameras are phenomenal. If you already have a mirrorless camera and you're asking yourself whether you should invest on a DJI Pocket 3, well, it all comes down to what it is that you do, whether you see an advantage of having something that is so quick and easy. If you want to do any type of vlogging, this is, in my opinion, a no-brainer. If you want to have something light without compromising on quality for your travels or your holidays or your family vacations, well, it's very different to be carrying something like this than something like this. They all do things very differently and very good, and it's down to each individual to decide what works best for them based on what they do and the personal circumstances.